Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Tevia in case you're new. Subscribe if you're new. Today's video will be about breastfeeding. As someone who breastfeeds, or even not even as someone who breastfeeds, as a mother or as a woman, I feel like breastfeeding is so frowned upon and women are always shunned for it, and I don't understand why. First, I'm going to go through some benefits of breastfeeding, then I'm going to talk about my experience of breastfeeding and any other things that I can think of along the way really. Breastfeeding decreases your risk of cancer. I didn't know this until a few months ago, and I've been breastfeeding for 10 months. And cancer is a rising health risk, and if you could potentially deter your risk of getting it, then by all means, I mean that's a great thing. You're giving your child nutrients and you're helping yourself. With breastfeeding, your milk is custom supply. So what that means is it's catered to your child. Your milk produces exactly what your child needs, from the colostrum to the milk that flows in a few days after. It is full of nutrients, antibodies, all sorts, and it's specifically designed for your child. Because if you have another child after that, your milk won't be the same, because your second child will require different things. Of course they still require nutrients and everything like that, but they may require a different amount from your first child. Breastfeeding is cheaper. I don't know how much formula costs around the world, but here it's £10. And it may not sound like a lot, but it does add up eventually when you're buying formula after formula after formula. Breastfeeding is convenient, and well, I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's definitely convenient. Like in the middle of the night, you don't have to get up to go downstairs, or if you don't have flights, you don't have to get up to go to the kitchen to get milk to make formula, because it's right there on you. It's convenient when traveling as well. I went to Jamaica a few months back, and traveling alone with a newborn is hard. It was my first time traveling with a child, and I had 2 carry-ons, a stroller or pusher, whatever you call it, and a huge suitcase. Could you imagine me trying to bring formula and all that mix in one of those carry-ons? I would have had to get warm water, and it was such a nightmare. So the fact that I breastfed took a lot of weight off my shoulders. My friend had an experience where they actually took the baby's milk away and threw it away before they boarded the plane. So breastfeeding definitely is very convenient in that sense. Not many people know this, but breastfeeding actually works as a contraceptive for the first 6 months after giving birth, if it is done correctly. I personally didn't use it as a contraceptive, but it can be used as one within the first 6 months, and you have to breastfeed full term, so no formula. It's literally just breastfeeding. Breastfeeding actually boosts your child's immune system as well as yours. Breastfed children are sick less than formula-fed babies. I'm not sure how true this is, but I've heard it a lot from midwives, doctors, health visitors, and I can say from my experience with breastfeeding and my child, he's been sick once, maybe twice since he's been born, and he's 10 months. I wouldn't even say twice, purely because the second time he was teething and he had a really bad fever and a cold. You know, with teething, babies often get flu-like symptoms, so I wouldn't even class that as being sick. But apart from that, he was sick one other time in the space of 10 months. Breastfeeding creates a strong emotional attachment with your child. I'm not saying that because you formula feed your child, you won't have a strong emotional attachment. I'm not saying that at all. But for me personally, I know it did help me when I first had my son. I mean, I loved him, and of course there was an attachment. But I was a new mom. I was really young, and I lost my mom at just 11. So I didn't know the attachment. I didn't know the bond between mother and child. Of course I had it for a few years, but it's not the same. I never had it in my teen years or adult life. So, you know, breastfeeding my son really helped that attachment. I mean, he's so clingy now. He loves being with me. He's a huge mommy's boy. and it definitely helped me bond with him a little more, get to know him a little better. When I was pregnant, I feel like I didn't, throughout my pregnancy, I was like, I'm not even pregnant, I'm just flat. And I wasn't very big in my pregnancy either. But it literally took me until I had him to realize, whoa, this is, you know. So breastfeeding really did help that attachment for me personally. Breastfeeding also aids weight loss. You burn, I can't remember how many calories it is, but you do burn, I think it's about between 500 and 1,000 calories when breastfeeding. So it does help with weight loss. I mean, you're supposed to eat more and drink more, of course, because you're using those extra calories. But between breastfeeding, running behind your child, depending how old they are, and your daily workout, or maybe for a 30-minute walk, it does help. I mean, before I had my child, I threw away a lot of my clothes, a lot, because I was so adamant that I wasn't gonna get down to my size that I was before, and I'm gonna be fat and all of this. Once again, I gained 0 weight when I was pregnant. My stomach just grew. I didn't really put on any weight. So I threw all my clothes away, and then I went back down to size. And, you know, I even lost a little more than what I was initially before I was pregnant. So it definitely helps. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the viewfinder instead of in the camera. Bad habit, I do apologize. So it is said that 73% of women in the UK breastfeed. I'm not sure how true this is. I found this on UNICEF. If I can find a link again, I'll just place it on the screen here. But it said that in the UK, 73% of women breastfeed. However, only 0.5% of women continue to breastfeed after the first year. I mean, I personally will continue to breastfeed after the first year. I mean, maybe to a year and a half, 2 years. Just because, you know, so much stuff goes into cow's milk, and why not just give your child what you already have? That's my personal opinion. I'm not trying to force my opinion on anyone, but that's personally what I believe. Across the world, I believe in the US it was 25%. I was wrong. In Germany it's 23%, and in the US it's 27% after a year. I mean, as I said, breastfeeding is very convenient, and before formula, that's what we had to do. I was breastfed till I was 3 and my sister never lets me forget it. I remember I said to her, I was like, oh, I'm gonna stop breastfeeding when he starts teething, and she was like, you better breastfeed that baby. Hey Shika, if you're watching this, if you see my About Me video, you know I have 4 sisters, so I might shout out a different sister in a different video. But Shika, if you remember that conversation. So I personally will continue to breastfeed my son after the first year, hopefully up to 2 years. I mean, he helps himself anyway, so it may be hard to get him off of it, but he does have his 3 meals a day, and he usually just has breast milk in the morning before breakfast, in the middle of the day before a nap, and once he's going down to sleep for the night. My experience with breastfeeding, I say, is great, but was a little tricky. I remember after having him, I had him at 1 in the morning, and the midwife that was on was horrible. Chance was tiny, very tiny. He was just 5 pounds 2 ounces, if I remember correctly. I'm such a horrible mom, I don't remember. I'm playing, but yeah, he was about 5 pounds 2 ounces, and he was so tiny. And the woman was just holding him like he wasn't a human, like he was just a thing that wasn't living, like. And I was in so much pain, and I just wanted to punch this woman in her face, and it's over, there's nothing I can do about that. She was horrible, and I wanted to feed him and I couldn't even do it because she would take him from me, and she'd go like this, or like, and then she just kept saying, and I would be like this, and she took him, and she's like, I just wanted to punch her so badly, and it just wasn't nice. It wasn't nice at all. And then I had, the following morning, a young girl came in. She wasn't much older than me. She was probably about 25, and she was great. She taught me different kind of ways to hold him, how to get him to latch, and she was great. I remember she came in and she was so happy and bubbly. I was one of the first women she saw, and she came to see me before she left, and she made me feel so confident in breastfeeding, and I really enjoyed it, and it helped me so much, because that skin to skin when they're first born is really important. And you know, they naturally go like this once they're born to find your nipple. But she was great. She really helped me a lot, and I really liked her. So did my sister, because my sister, if you've seen my labor and delivery video, you know my sister was not fond of a lot of them midwives. My battery's about to die. Before I started breastfeeding, or before, when I was pregnant even, I didn't have much information on breastfeeding. I didn't go to many classes when I was pregnant. I didn't go to any classes when I was pregnant, and I wanted to, but I'm a huge introvert. I don't engage in social activity very often. I have like 2 or 3 friends, and the thought of it just, I couldn't do it. I had severe anxiety when I was pregnant, and I just couldn't bring myself to go to a class full of people. I couldn't do it. I would literally break down. I even had a breakdown in the middle of one day, and I just couldn't do it. So I didn't have much information about breastfeeding, but I saw a poster when I was getting my scan listing off a few benefits, and I was like, I'm gonna breastfeed, and that was it. When I had him, I started breastfeeding, and as I said, it did help create a bond with him, because throughout all of my pregnancy, I was just like, I'm just fat, and I was awake for 14 hours, and once I had him, I was so tired. I didn't really get that, that, I don't even know how to explain it, but I was awake for 14 hours, and I was high on gas and air, so it was a whole deal. But once I started taking Chance out, if he'd cry, I'd run home. I was so afraid to breastfeed in public, and it shouldn't be like that. It's a natural thing, but I will always run home because I was scared of what people would say to me, of how people would look at me. And the first time I did it in mother care, because they have a section just for women to breastfeed their children. And then over time, I started feeding in public. I fed in restaurants, on the train, and I got used to it. And I've never had anyone come to me and be rude regarding it. I mean, I'm very covered when I'm in public breastfeeding, but sometimes Chance likes to pull the blanket off his head because it's hot, or he just doesn't want it on there. So sometimes I do end up being a little exposed. But I feel like a child requires nutrients. That's what breasts were made for, to breastfeed your child. We have made them a sexual thing. Society has sexualized breasts, but they were made to feed your child. And I can't stand when I see videos of people degrading women breastfeeding in public. Why not? You're eating. Why can't my child eat? This is what they were intended for. Humans were made to reproduce, and women have exactly what they need to feed their child on them. Why give them something that's man-made? I'm not bashing formula. If you want to give your child formula, each to their own. But I'm just talking on how I feel regarding this specific I was gonna say specific topic. And breastfeeding, I do believe, is a great thing. We need to stop sexualizing breast. It's a natural thing, and I personally love breastfeeding my son. He helps himself, as I said. But that's the end of this video. If you guys liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. Leave a comment down below on how you feel about breastfeeding. Would you rather breastfeed, or just stop after 6 months? I know a few people have. Would you continue after a year? When do you feel like women should stop breastfeeding? At like what age? I saw a post the other day of a woman breastfeeding her child who was 4. So, you know, people have different opinions on these things, and I'm very passionate about this, which is why I made this video. And I know for a fact there's a lot that I left out, so there will be a part 2 to this, so we'll look out for that. But until next time.